Today, I'm going to talk about the top 5 best and worst things about the RBZ. Because this is episode 55, we are going to talk about the 5 up and the 5 down. I am going to expose some of the things about this car that, you know, they're not perfect, right? Some of the things that drive me nuts that aren't so great. And I'm gonna talk about the things that I love the most, man, because this car is fun, man. It's a project that I just continue to enjoy. Even though I'm daily driving it, I still just really enjoy driving it. Like, I really do. Especially now that we fixed the turbos and the exhaust leaks. This is a different car, man. It runs completely different. It feels different. It's way more responsive, and it's like I'm falling in love again, man. I'm falling in love again. So I have ranked this list, and I'm going to give it to you from the worst best to the most best, and we're gonna talk about each thing in between. So it was hard to narrow it down to just 5 things that I like the most about this car. So starting out at number 5 is the interior. The fresh, awesome leather from Interior Innovations. This interior is still just as awesome and just as fresh as the day I put it in. And again, it's one of the things I really love about this car. I love the way it smells. I love the way it feels. I just love the way it just looks, and just everything about it is amazing. And in fact, one of the next TueZday garages coming up will be the 1-year, 6,000 mile review on the leather, so stay tuned for that. Number 4 on my list is the sound system. Not just the subwoofers, but the entire sound system that I have put in this car. If you don't recall, or if you're new to the channel, I actually have tweeters that I've installed up here in the actual hatch lid. These are sealed boxes. These are 6-inch subwoofers with 10-inch subwoofers in the back. Amp is right there. I got 5 1/4 and tweeters in the front door. And man, I'll tell you what, when this car is all shut up and I'm sitting inside thumping some freaking bass, you can't even hear it outside, and there's not a single rattle, man. And inside, it sounds great. It's not chest busting, but man, it is just balanced, perfect, and it's exactly what I want in a sound system. So that's my number 4. My number 3 about this car is the overall drivability, man. The response, the feel that the RB has. And one of the things I really like the most is the map sensor. Being away from MAF, oh man, it just takes so many problems and weirdness out of the equation. And I am just completely in love with the drivability of this car right now. The work that I've done on the suspension, the engine, just the way it's tuned, like, the marriage between the Z and the RB, it's definitely on my top 5, and it's number 3. So number 2 on my list is something that I put a ton of thought, engineering, and time into developing. Did a lot of research. The sound of this car, man. The voice that it has, and that's all because of the exhaust that we put together. So number 2 on my list is the exhaust. And it goes beyond just the sound of this car. Taking an engine where everything is on one side, it combines into one, and then splitting it back out to dual exhaust was really important to me. By the combination of the mufflers and the resonator and the piping that I used and the materials, I definitely achieved the sound I was going for. And just the beautiful tone and throatiness that this thing has without that annoying highway drone makes it most definitely my number 2 on my list of favorite things about the RBZ. And the number 1 thing, without a doubt, is the ease of work. It's not the engine, but it is the engine. It is the fact that this engine is so work friendly. It's easy to work on. It's simple. It's not complicated or difficult to get to things. You could be in and out of a project fairly quickly. I mean, we showed that we replaced both turbos in the span of 3 days, and one of those days was completely rebuilding the turbos. So, I mean, I can't say I could have replaced both turbos on a twin turbo VG in 3 days, one of those being rebuilding those turbos. So, my number 1 favorite thing about doing this swap is the ease of work that it allowed me in the long run. Most definitely. And if there was one other thing that I could add on top of all those favorite things, it's gotta be this, man. It's a freaking RB. It's a freaking RB, and this baby, she's breaking necks. She's breaking necks. I love the conversation that this car creates in places. I love the questions that I get online. I love the people that I've met. I love the community that surrounds the RB and all the people that I've met because of that. It's just been this just awesome journey in like discovering and learning and meeting people. Just the freaking RB, dude. The freaking RB. All right, so we had our dessert. Now it's time to take our medicine, man, and talk about the things that I don't like about this car, man. The things that just drive me freaking nuts. And some of them you don't know about, and now it's gonna be like one of those things where now that you know, and you've seen it, and now you can't unsee it. But I'm gonna share all the little gremlins and all the things that just drive me freaking crazy about this build, and the things I just gotta work out over time. And some of them, I'm just at a loss. Number 5 on my list of things that just bug me about this car is the freaking vibrations and the rattles. In order to fit this engine into the engine bay, one, I had to use basically solid mounts. They are polyurethane pucks, but essentially these things are freaking solid, man. There's no dampening that's happening because of the engine vibrations, especially when the engine's cold, man. Just the vibrations that this thing puts out, you just feel it all up in the car. Sometimes it's kind of cool because you just really feel connected with the engine, but yeah, that's why it's number 5. It's not terribly annoying, but it's on the naughty list. Number 4 is my exhaust, but for a different reason. When I had my exhaust done, I just went to a muffler shop or an exhaust shop on the island of Oahu. All they did was took an eBay exhaust that I had, they hacked it off, put on a set of MagnaFlow mufflers that I gave them. The rest of the exhaust I made while I was on my back, underneath the car, welding, then taking it off, then welding, then putting it on and welding. And over time, there was just an ever so slight bend in the pipe when I welded it together. And because of that, the tips back here ended up ever so slightly off. And you wouldn't know it unless you were looking at it straight up. You know, in fact, hold on a second. Let me do this. If you notice the gap that exists between the pipe and that side there, and the gap that exists between the pipe and that side there, the whole exhaust shifted to that direction over there, to the driver's side of the car. See, look at the distance here, and look at the distance here. Here, here. And because of that shift, because of that ever so slight shift to the left, the slightest movement on this side causes the muffler to actually hit the freaking gas tank. And that's annoying. I've tried all kinds of things to remedy that. I can't remedy it. There's no fixing it. It doesn't matter if I try to hang it or pull it or stretch it or whatever. Eventually, I'm just gonna have to get it redone. But right now, redoing the exhaust, re-welding it, or even taking the back to a muffler shop, having them cut that muffler and re-weld it just ever so slightly over, it's just not a priority right now, but yeah, it's freaking annoying, man. And that's why it's my number 4. Number 3 is something that every Z owner struggles with. And usually if you see an ad for a Z online, there's always one key phrase that's always in every single classified ad for a Z. T-tops don't leak. Because they all freaking do. And so do mine. Now, if you look, you could see I have silicone sealed this stripping. This weather stripping is completely sealed here. Because this piece of stripping is held on with screws into the actual T-top, unlike the rest of these that just kind of clip into a groove channel. Now, even here on the inside, I have silicone sealed this trim. All of this is all silicone sealed, and it's all silicone sealed in here. So if water gets in here, it can only go into the drain hole on both sides. Yet, I continually get water that comes in right freaking here in this little seam where the A-pillar meets. It leaks right out of here and drips right on the freaking seat on this side and that side. It does it all the time, especially if I'm washing with high pressure, and it's really freaking annoying, and I'm not exactly sure how to fix it, and I freaking hate it. I hate it with death, and I want it to die with fire. Number 2 on my list is something that maybe you've heard, maybe you haven't heard, but it's one of the most freaking annoying things that I really freaking hate about this car. And it's something that I just don't have the time or resources or ability to fix at this point in time, because I just depend on this car every day, and it is what it is. But when I let the clutch out to take off from a stop, most of the time, 60% of the time, in first gear and second gear, there is this super loud, squeaking, screeching, god-awful, terribly embarrassing noise that happens from the clutch. And I think it's the throwout bearing. It makes no noise at any other time, but every once in a while, 60% of the time when I'm taking off from a stop, it's like, just in the moments between not engaged and engaged, it makes a squeak. So if I'm letting out slowly, it squeaks more, obviously, for a longer period of time, but it's just, and from a second gear, it's like, you know, it's just this weird screech that happens. I'm fairly certain it's the throwout bearing. It's not making any weird grinding noises and terrible noises, and the clutch isn't acting weird, the engagement's still amazing, and nothing else is happening. It's just a squeak, it's annoying, but it is most definitely my number 2, man. And the number 1 thing that I don't like about this car, especially right now, is that my tune is just not right. My tune is amazing. Sean, I love you to death, dude. You did an amazing job, and it still continues to be amazing. But being here in Texas at just over 3,000 feet on only 91 octane gas, the tune is definitely not doing the job it was meant to do on 92 octane and sea level. The car still performs awesome. The car still drives amazing. The boost is great. The response is great. It's amazing. But man, I definitely get my check engine light, which is attached to the knock sensor. That likes to light up a little too often, and I do feel some hesitation from time to time. It's usually just in the mid-range throttles, not necessarily wide open throttle and not low throttle, but that partial throttle when I'm boosting, but I'm not at wide open throttle. That's when I feel it the most, and it's just annoying. Hopefully a lot of that goes away once we upgrade the new injectors and start giving this thing a lot more fuel. I've already talked to Sean. He's on board. We're gonna tweak the tune just a little bit. I already know what I need to do to get this thing working. Because volumetric efficiency works on an algorithm, it's gonna be all good. But that's my number 1 thing, man. I wish that now that the exhaust leaks and all that things were fixed, that we could take advantage and really feel the 92 at sea level tune, but we can't. And I don't think I have the resources to get it tuned while I'm here, so it is what it is. Now, because I decided to have 1 extra on the things I love about the car, I'm gonna have 1 extra on the things that I don't love about the car. And that 1 extra thing is just gonna be the general phobia that I have about parking and being out in public with this car, man. I'm that guy that parks way out in the freaking back of the parking lot now. I don't park next to other cars. I would never take this to the airport and leave it overnight out in a parking lot. I don't want to go downtown. I don't want to be in a public place. I don't want to leave it for any long periods of time. It all just has to do with the car being an investment. I know what I put into it. I value it. I'm aware of my surroundings, and just in general, I just have phobia, man, all the time, constantly. And it sucks. I no longer have phobia about driving the car or the way it's performing or anything like that mechanically. I'm way over that. Now, it's just about her being taken advantage of, being victimized, or just someone generally deciding that it's their car now. So that's it. So guys, the RBZ, so much good, and the bads, they're bads, but they can be overlooked, man. They're not terrible, they're not atrocious, but now you know some of the gremlins and some of the struggles and some of those first world problems that I've got about this car. Hopefully now that you've seen it, it's not one of those things you just can't unsee, but yeah. I want to be transparent, man. I want to share with you the things, because you know what? Life's not perfect. This build isn't perfect. There's things about this build that they're just not perfect, and that's fine, because that's just life. That's the way it is. But you know what? I drive this thing every day, and in the last 6 months, I've put over 6,000 miles on this car, man, and it's awesome. It's awesome to have spent 2 years building something that I genuinely drive every single day. I wouldn't trade it for the world. I would trade it for an R33, which may be coming soon. But we'll talk about that another time. Until then, stay tuned for the next TueZday Garage. I hope you enjoyed this little video. Until next time, ciao a tutti and aloha. Bye-bye.